Hey, we're talking about decades of technology. Up next on Geek Out SA. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream. And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Saturday and we're here and we're back.
Yeah, that was a little rough there on the intro, huh, honey? It's been
Just
a while.
A little bit. It's been a while since we've done it.
It's been a while. And your camera is way off. I think the dog must have bumped it just a minute ago because it is pointing right at your desk and we can see your messy work desk. So do you want me to fix that for you real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dog has just been in here. You need to move this direction. Now you're not on center, so move way over. We're going to get this figured out. There we go, folks. There he is. There he is.
Here I am.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
So it's been a while. Well, we're just going to look at just me right now. It's been a while because of me, because we spent a lot of time on me, because I just turned 50 wee me on October 16th. So yeah, so we spent a lot of time on me, right? And so
Hey, Trisky.
Hey. And so we were off for a while.
Yeah.
And didn't do a show. We did do the weekend that we had my birthday party, we did do a video of the eclipse, but it didn't get very many views. So I think it was because we just didn't advertise it. I've been really focused on my new job and turning 50, and you've been planning a birthday party for me and everything. So, but that actually prompted us to think about the topic. Well, that and some other things that we've kind of been through recently with using newer technologies kind of made us realize, you know, we've been alive. Well, Vincent, not quite. Vincent's a little bit behind me. But we've been alive for half a century.
Yeah.
And
Well, you have.
I said you're right behind me. You're almost there. I mean, come on. It's not like you're 3 or 4 years.
Next year.
He's going to be in April next year. So it's not like in October of next year. It's like in April of next year. So I don't know. For me, I was thinking about just, you know, I've kind of looked back at my life. And now that I've become a high school teacher, I've kind of looked back at those high school years and stuff. And just thinking about all the things that are available today versus what everything was like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. I was like, you know, we
Well,
kind of
in the 70s,
have.
there wasn't much. There was some stuff, but not much. Not easily accessible.
Right. So there wasn't much commercially available.
Right.
Right. There was stuff. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't even realize once I started kind of researching this. I was like, oh. That really came, like, I didn't know that car phones came out in the 40s.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, you know, and that the Tandy computer, which if y'all are younger, y'all won't even know what that is, but which was something that a couple of my friends had in the late 80s, maybe. Mm-hmm. Came out in like 1977 when I was 4 and you were 3.
Yeah.
You know, so the technology was
Radio Shack. It was a Radio Shack computer.
Yeah, so the technology was there. It just wasn't like something that we could.
It wasn't ready available because even back then it was expensive.
It was so
Very
expensive. It was super expensive, and so you had to be that family, right, to afford that kind of technology. I remember being so excited because we used to go to the arcade, and I'm thinking I was maybe 9 or 10, so it was maybe like 1982, 1983. One of my friend's dads bought a little arcade machine. I don't know, it was about yay big. And it was about yay big, and it was Pac-Man. Yeah. And so you could bring the arcade home. And there weren't a whole lot. I think maybe it was just Pac-Man and Joust and Galaga maybe were the only 3 that you could get. And that was about the time that, you know, the Atari was really big.
Right.
When we were growing up. So we grew up having the Atari there at home. And in, I think like when we were like 5th grade, 6th grade was when Nintendo came out.
Well, even before that, I had, I was given like a ColecoVision back in the day before I got my Atari to play Pong.
That, yeah, and that one had the little, like this, right?
Yeah.
And you had to, yeah. But did that just have Pong?
Trisky says, I remember Cyberzone in Ingram Mall.
Oh, yeah. The arcades were the best, yeah. Did the Pong just had the Pong on it, right? There was nothing else.
Just had Pong,
you couldn't even put cartridges in it or anything,
No.
right? Well, and what my family thought was exciting, not necessarily my family, but like my dad and mom, because they were older, right, is because my dad was a teacher, he had like the old school computer, like like the heavy metal keys, you know, and the metal and then they came out
the typewriter.
The typewriter, I mean. Sorry, the typewriter. And so then they came out with the typewriter that had a button on it that you could push that would hold up the correction tape. And then you could press the key, like if you had messed up on it, you could hold the correction key and hold the X, and it would go, and it would go back over the X like several times with the correction paper and like take it off. Like, so if you had made a mistake with the typewriter. And that was a huge thing, because it used to be you'd have to scoot it over, get your liquid paper or something and like scratch it out, and then wait, blow on it, hope it had dried enough, scoot it back over and try to get it aligned to like retype. And then you would be typing like kind of down here or whatever.
So I think it was in high school, like maybe freshman or sophomore year in high school, my mom bought me a Smith Corona word processor. So it was a typewriter with a monitor on it, but it was just like the Amber. It was just text.
Right,
you couldn't like do anything on it. You couldn't like see images or anything like that.
Right.
But you'd be able to go in and then just type what you wanted. It looked like you're working on Word, but it was just like the amber colored stuff in there. So that was one of the cool things, because that was the closest thing to a computer that I had access to.
Right, and then like nowadays we complain like if something takes a couple of seconds to print out. But it was funny because my friend came down for my birthday from Michigan, and she and I have been friends since kindergarten. And we were looking through this scrapbook that I had made in high school, and she had sent me a banner when we were 8th grade that said something like Friends Forever or whatever, but it was on that dot matrix printer. So it was like, 8 feet long. It was a and so people don't, people that aren't my age, they don't remember the pain of like having these reams of paper that are like 2 miles high that you had to feed into it, and it were like,
it had like holes on the side.
Yeah, it had holes on the side, and then it had like it had a pink and a yellow and a white, so it would like go through all of them and make the indentation so you could have like a copy for yourself or whatever of what you had made. So then when we get these, I think the biggest thing that I was fascinated with, aside from color printers, which just blew my mind, was these printers that we got that were scanners and printers and fax machines. And so, and it's funny because this technology has evolved as we've been growing. So we've kind of grown with it, and I think we have probably some of the best grasp of it.
Yeah.
Although it's weird because some people in our age bracket don't. Like they just can't get on that bandwagon, right? And I guess maybe it's because of you that I've been so fortunate, because you like it so much that I've just kind of kept up with it.
Adopted it.
Yeah. Because I know people like teachers that I work with, and they can't even they can't even figure out how to feed stuff into the copy machine to like email to themselves. Like I'm gonna call out my friend, and she's young. She's only 30. So we were co-teaching together, and the copy machine, it has the email function, and she figured that out, and she figured out how to pop out the key. Like there's a keyboard that pops out if you know where to look, and it pops out so you can type on it, so you can type your email address so you're not hunting and pecking on the little screen. And we had to scan all of these documents that we had for kids that we used to have in paper format so that we could upload them electronically to this new system, right?
Right.
30-year-old child is in there, and it's taking her forever. And I'm like, what is taking this child so long to get this done? Girl was in there opening the copy machine and putting the individual documents in and emailing them to herself. She was not using the feeder. Mm-hmm. So then when she came back, she had taken like a whole 45 minutes and had done like, I don't know, maybe 10 of the kids' folders. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? I was like, was it like, did it keep jamming or what? I said, because it like, did you make sure that the staples were out and it was straight? And she's like, what do you mean jamming? And I was like, well, you put it in the feeder and it just feeds it all and it makes one PDF for you and sends you the whole PDF. And she's like, it can do that? And so I think that, I think that we've had this benefit of growing up with this technology and going from, like kids nowadays wouldn't even know what to do with, if they saw that old Tandy with the big floppy disks.
Yeah.
What is this? What do I do with this? And then we went from the floppies to the 3.5s, right?
3.5 floppy.
The thick kind of plastic ones. Mm-hmm. And then the CDs.
Because it was like, what was it, 5.5 to 3.5?
Yeah. And then what was the whole, so my family never got into this, and I know a couple of families, and it didn't really take off. What was the whole Laserdisc thing? Was different than CDs?
Yeah. You needed a whole laser
like it was a big thing, right?
It was before, but it was how to see movies. They were trying to see how the technology went, because I think it came before CDs. The Laserdisc came before CDs.
I think maybe it did. Yeah.
So
I knew like one person that had bought one of those like Laserdisc things. Mm-hmm. But then that became kind of the pitfall of our generation, or not the pitfall, but what would you call it? Like maybe the curse of our generation, was because we still had like albums. Like mm-hmm. LPs, right? We had albums. Then we moved to cassettes, and we had our cassette players. And then we had VHS.
Dr. Breedenstein says Laserdisc was like DVD before...
Blu-ray?
Laserdisc was like DVD before DVD.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you have your albums.
They didn't last very long. They were... The Laserdiscs don't last as long as like DVDs do.
Okay.
They were a lot less. I don't know how they were made.
Probably because of the way it was read or something. Yeah. Like, you think of lasers and they tend to be a little kind of burny and stuff. So maybe that the way that it was reading. But just think about it. So were you have to be, because you're not that much younger than I am. Did your grandparents still have 8 tracks in the car?
Yes.
Y'all were kind of fancy.
Yeah, they had 8 tracks.
Okay, so just think about it. So we had 8 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
We had cassettes. We had albums. Mm-hmm. We have CDs, mm-hmm. right? Then we have music like iPods and like music holders like that, right? Now we have streaming services. Now we have our personal assistants that we can buy a music thing for. Well, then if you think about VHS, DVD, Blu-ray.
Before going through all of that, there's like generations of stuff that happened. Like even with like CDs. When the CDs, they didn't have CD players in cars.
Till like the 90s.
For a while, you would have to take your CD player, your CD Walkman.
Uh-huh.
Then you connected to the cassette adapter and then stick it in your cassette.
And cassette. And then if you hit a pothole or something, and then your CD player would jump, and then sometimes you'd scratch your CD, and then you'd be all ticked off or whatever.
Yeah, Trisky says I have Demolition Man Laserdisc.
Nice.
Very
oh my God,
cool.
that's excellent. I love that movie. But we became that generation of people that I think we are, hoarders, collectors, whatever you want to call us, because we had spent all this time amassing all these collections. So you have all these collections of VHS. Like I have all these VHS of Disney.
We even have there was even a thing with Beta, and Beta never took off.
Right.
Because that was right in there with VHS, or right before VHS, but it never kicked off, and they were smaller.
So I kept you can't see them. I'll have to show you one of these days. But I kept all of my Disney VHS because they kind of looked like book covers, right? They kind of looked like books, and they were really pretty, and I wanted to keep them.
Right.
But you get to a point where TVs have evolved enough that you can't play VHS on a TV anymore. So they push you out of that technology, and now you're like, okay, well, now I have to get a DVD, right? And so now you've had the DVDs for a little while, and you've given your, what was that thing that you gave a penny to subscribe to the thing? It was like getting a subscription box for DVDs and stuff back in the day. Columbia House, right?
Columbia House.
So you would get your Columbia House, and you'd get your CDs and your DVDs and stuff, and you built up your collection, and then here come Blu-rays. Yeah. And you're like, dang it. And you're like, no, it's a fad. Like for a while we were like, it's a fad. It's Laserdisc, right? The Blu-ray is like, it's nothing. We're going to hold on to that hope, right? And then we're like, oh man, I've got to rebuy my whole collection. And like, if I really love it, I want to get it. And now we have streaming stuff.
And that's where we get with Blu-ray, we also had the, what was it? Was it the HD disc or something like that?
Oh, the UHD or something like that, yeah.
So it was like only the stuff that Sony was pushing was the stuff that was like moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And then they were trying to get you, and then it was like, okay, well you can get the Blu-ray, and it's gonna be just $19.99.
Yeah.
But if you pay $23.99, then you get the Blu-ray and the DVD. Mm-hmm. And if you pay $27.99, you get the Blu-ray and the DVD and the digital download. Because this is before we have Disney Plus or anything else. And so people are like, oh yeah, because then I can download it. It can be on my iPad. I can give it to my kid, and they can watch it on the plane ride or car ride or whatever.
But even look at the progression of like computers themselves, like personal computers. I started out with like a Packard Bell, like that's everybody's first crappy computer is a Packard Bell. It was just like an early Pentium. I think it was like 177 megahertz or something like that. Nothing compared to what we have today. It was 177 megahertz.
Like that's not like our phones laugh at that right now.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, it's crazy to think of. Well, and my family got into the computer game much later. My dad was very much a typewriter guy, and he just used the typewriter, and he kind of resisted. He was one of those technology resistors. My mom, too, has never really learned how to use technology. So it wasn't really until after high school, so like in 92, 93. Yeah. Although I did take C++ programming in high school. Mm-hmm. And so we learned how to write 9,000 lines of code to make one little animation move, which was interesting.
I remember doing some of that in QBasic in high school. Dr. Breeden says, even though Blu-ray 1, most stores aren't even selling Blu-ray anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've always really liked movies.
Because it's hard to find. Here's another thing. It's hard to find a car with a CD drive, with a CD player in it.
Nope, can't find it anymore.
We used to have like CD disc changers back in the day. That's not a thing anymore. Mm-mm. Because we can plug in a USB drive or plug in our phone and then play from there.
Well, and so many cars now come with, they've come with their own computer screen, and now you have all of these streaming services for music too. So you can get it radio, you get Siri radio or Sirius, or are they the same thing?
Now. They didn't used to be,
but maybe even well, you have an Alexa in the car, so if we paid for the Alexa, we could get the music in the car.
Yeah.
And actually, we don't even pay for the Amazon Music subscription. We just take that little Alexa in the car, and then if we have signal, we can just ask her to play whatever, and she plays it pretty much. You have to listen to her shuffle stuff you don't want to hear.
It's hard to find a computer with a CD drive, DVD drive.
I don't think it's available anymore.
It's very rare that they make one with that.
Well, then remember when the fancy thing used to be the cars with like the screens for the kids in the back seat that like popped down or whatever, or they were in the back of the seat and everything. Are they still even doing that? I haven't even looked for that.
They probably are.
Probably, but you have to.
They make like ones that you can attach to your headrest in the back.
Yeah, but now it's what you're streaming your Netflix and stuff to it, and it's not even like you don't have like okay. This will tell you how old we are and how old our kids are, because our kids are 26 and 27 and 31. So we didn't have a lot of money when the kids were growing up. And so we did not have the fancy like vehicle that had the screens that came down and stuff. But what we did have was we had a TV that was about, I don't know, this big or so, right? And about this wide. And it was a TV with a DVD player connected to it. It wasn't even
a little CRT color TV.
Yeah, it was a CRT color TV. It wasn't even the kind that like flipped up like this, because they had those too back in the day, where it was like, here's the DVD player and then the screen flips up and the screen's right there. This was a full-on like CRT, like a tube TV. And it had a regular plug that you plugged into the wall. So we had a cigarette lighter converter that converted from the cigarette lighter to a plug, and then we would plug that in, and then we would put it between our two front seats where the armrest was, so that the kids could see, all three kids could see it in the back. You just did what you did.
Poor tech.
Poor people technology. Mostly we played games with the kids, and it was like I Spy and played the alphabet game and stuff like that. So we didn't, the kids didn't have as much, and you were not real happy with them having cell phones as early as I gave them cell phones. You were not a fan of that either, which is interesting because you're a tech guy.
I'm a tech guy, but there was no reason to have a cell phone that early.
It's because he's cheap.
No,
and I thought I was
because
cheap.
I'm cheap. It had nothing to do with being cheap. It had everything to do. It was like they didn't need it.
Just gets them in trouble.
Yeah.
And I see that, and it did. And I see that more
and it does.
And it does still to this day. So I see that more and more today as an educator, that the cell phones have really become a problem. Like at first they were fascinating and we loved them and it was great, and we could use social media and everything. It's gotten to the point where we've had to implement a policy at school where the students cannot go to the restroom unless they hand their cell phone over to the teacher. Because what they're doing is they're using their cell phones to tell each other, hey, let's get out of class, let's go skip, let's go vape.
In high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's go smoke out, let's skip, let's vape, let's have a fight, and all these people come and watch us fight, like we're going to fight over this one thing. They beat the crud out of each other in the bathroom, kind of wash up and videotape, and then it's all over the internet.
Videotape, and then that's another phrase that...
Oh, videotape, yeah, that's not a thing. Okay, I'm old. What do you call it now? They just video it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
there's
like when
no
you
tape.
ask a kid, act like you're taking a call, but pretend like you're taking a call.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Speakerphone? Hello?
And then when you ask
And
us, how do you doing?
Yeah.
Because I even remember the time where we went from rotary to push button.
Me too. I do too.
I
And
remember I
I
got
used
one
to
of
love.
those cool Cobra phones. The one that you just like lay down and it
Yes,
turns
those
off.
were so cool. But then if you didn't lay it down just right, it wouldn't turn off.
Yeah.
It would be just on forever. But there was something about a rotary phone, right? There was just something about, like, you would dial it and then you'd be like, click, 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 click. And then I don't know. There was just something fun about the rotary phone, which I love those videos that they do. I guess it's BuzzFeed or somebody that does them, right? Where it's like it has the old rotary phones and then it's trying to get current young people to try to use it and see what it's like. But that was a big change. That was my big, huge 16th birthday present. Was my parents paid for me to have my own phone line with my own phone number in my bedroom. Because again, we don't have cell phones. But now I'm 16. I'm a junior in high school. I got my own phone line in my bedroom with my own phone. And it was, I really wanted like the Mickey Mouse one, but it was so expensive and they had paid a lot to get the phone line put in. So it was just like a little red one that was on the thing. But I'm really bad at mornings. Like, I'm the worst at mornings. And I had a boyfriend, like you do in high school. And so we used to do this stupid thing. So if you're a young person, so this is a stupid thing that we used to do when we were growing up. You'd be on the phone with your boyfriend or your girlfriend and be like, you hang up. No, you hang up. Okay, I'm going to go to bed and you go to bed and we're just going to both be on the phone all night. And we'll be on the phone with each other until the morning. And then you talk and then you giggle or whatever. So my dad got sick and tired of like having to basically pull me out of the bed to make me go to school because I couldn't wake up because my boyfriend and I would be on the phone all night. No, you. Oh, you're so cute. No, you. And then we played music and we'd like, y'all didn't even know the horrors of listening to the radio and trying to create a mixtape off of the radio to wait, or you would try to call in to like get the song. You would ask them to play the song, and like give a shout out to somebody. I can't remember what it's called now. My brain just went, ugh, ugh. And then
Dedication.
You'd have to do the dedication, but then you'd have to wait for like 2 hours until your dedication came on. And so you'd try to be on the phone with each other, like listening to the same radio station, or you'd try to get your tape player out and like record it right when they said it so that you could get the dedication part. Oh my God. It was so much. And then I think about all of that, all the stuff that we did to do all that. And now it's so simple to do anything. And you don't have to go through all of that. And you don't have to mess with tape. And you don't have to mess with any of this stuff. And I mean, if you want to send somebody a song, you just send it to them from your cell phone to their cell phone.
Those kids don't know the struggle.
They don't know the struggle. They have no idea the struggle. And then I think that leads us to newer technologies that kids nowadays are going to have to wade through. And I think people our age are going to have to wade through because, I mean, at 50, we still have 15, 17, 20 years in the workforce still. So I think that we're going to have to figure out how to use. Yet. Vincent, Edward. All right, you're close enough to 50. Now that I'm 50, you're 50. Once I'm 50, you're 50. But I think that we're going to have to learn how to use AI and how to use these chat GPT type features to enhance what we are doing. I mean, I think that we're the ones who have been on the forefront of learning how to use video technology and stuff. Yeah, no, Mr. Beast, none of us are Mr. Beast or anything like that, right? It's the young people who have taken it further. But I think there's something to be said about the knowledge we have. Oh, and the sleepiness.
But kind of our generation is the one to adopt technology. And most of us aren't afraid of technology at all.
And I think we utilize it more and we utilize it better. The thing is my students still to this day struggle with finding relevant information on the internet or using YouTube effectively or even TikTok effectively to learn skill sets. If they don't know how to do something, they just say, I don't know how to do it. Show me. We'll go look it up. We'll go look it up where? You literally have the whole internet. Go look it up.
Imagine if we had the internet when we were kids.
But I think that it's a bit of a disservice that they don't get to go through what we went through. Don't you? Because I think it makes us better with the internet because we had to come from a place where we had to use books to look things up. We had to know how to go and find the manual for our car in the library, look for the right pages, photocopy those pages, highlight the pieces of the diagram of the places that needed to be fixed and take it home and do that. We had to go to MapQuest, see all the directions. It didn't speak to us as we were driving. Like you had to print it all out and have like half a novel with you of directions and make sure that you're reading it preemptively and say, okay, it's telling you in like 5.5 miles you're going to get here. Well, how do I know what 5.5 miles is? I'm looking at my speedometer, or I'm looking for other landmarks that I see on the MapQuest. So I think
even the GPS has come a long way because GPS are when you're using like a Garmin or stuff, you would have to load maps every so often because you weren't connected directly to the internet to get information from there. And like you have instant information now.
Right, but no, you used to have to upload it, and then you would have to link it to the internet and wait for it to upload. And so if there was any kind of construction or something, it didn't know. And it didn't know to take you around or anything. It just took you headlong into whatever it knew that it was supposed to do. And that was MapQuest too. Like it didn't know. It didn't always have the most updated stuff. And then you had to try to figure it out, That was why we used to always carry big paper maps with us too, just in case. But I think that that's going to give us a benefit when it comes to AI and using ChatGPT and things like that, because I think that young people are lazy with technology.
Right.
And they just think, well, I can just feed it this and it'll just feed me back whatever I want and I'm just done. And it's going to be like 2 seconds because they're used to everything being 2 seconds.
It's close.
It's close.
It's real close.
It's close, but it's not perfect. So
Not yet.
No.
But it's getting there.
Well, but you have to know how to ask it too, right? I mean,
you do have to know how to like formulate your prompt.
You and I have a certain intellect that helps, right? So I teach advanced students. They've been in like AP dual credit on-ramps classes. And one of my seniors the other day used ChatGPT to answer something for his AP English class. And meanwhile, me and some of the other students, we had read the short story and we were talking about it and analyzing it. And so he showed me his answers. And granted, the answers were spectacular. Some of the answers were spectacular. But first of all, they were too spectacular to be his. And I said, that's kind of a glaring, obvious problem with this right now. Yes, he tried to use it as a tool and he tried to dumb it down a little bit, but not enough. And secondly, one of the answers was just straight wrong.
Yeah.
When you're talking about interpreting something that is like a poem or something like that, again, the computer is just a computer, so it doesn't understand human nuances. And again, this is a child, so when I read the story, I understood the nuances because it's about a woman who's married and she thinks her husband has died, and she's joyous, but she's trying not to be joyous. And so people think that she's fragile or whatever. But the reason she's joyous is because she never really wanted to be married in the first place. She just kind of did it because that was what society wanted of her. And so she's glad that he's gone because now she can just live her life as herself.
Where you go with this?
Oh, well, anyway, there's all these human nuances, right, that high
Yeah.
school students don't understand because they're in
Right.
high school and they've never been through adult relationships. And the computer doesn't understand.
Uh-huh.
So the computer thought that she had been abused. And that's why she was joyous. It didn't know how to read the nuances of the story.
Right.
That was where I was going with that. I'm sorry, that was a long time. I'm a girl. That's how I describe things, okay? It's like girl description. Sorry. And I get really into stories. I'm really weird about stories. So I think that's another thing to take into consideration is...
Well, I mean, it can give you a good starting point for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going through and you have like writer's block, it's real easy to go through and get some ideas from that. Mm-hmm. But then you have to go back and then edit what you see there and then fix it to where it needs to work for you. And I don't think people are necessarily doing that.
Right. That's, I think, the step that people are missing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a benefit that people in our generation have if they're willing to accept AI is we do know how to refine our searches. We do know how to research and re-ask things. I mean, how many times have you and I done something with our boys, even our boys who tend to be old now at this point, kind of, right? And they want to know how to, fix a Honda mower or whatever. So they go onto YouTube, they just watch the first video.
Right.
They don't want to watch 3 or 4 videos to try to see what commonality there is or whatever.
Or because you might find a way to do it even easier.
Right. And so I think that that's going to be problematic is the young people aren't going to want to take the time because it's still going to take time. Mm-hmm. It's not an instantaneous fix to what you need. And now with AI, of course, everybody's afraid of AI and everything. So all of these places are making like AI detectors and stuff. So now they can detect whether you're using AI, but even the AI detectors are fallible.
Yeah.
And you can put something in there that isn't generated by AI if you're an excellent writer, which there are some out there, and then they think that AI wrote it.
But you can go through and then make it, because you say AI, but it's not necessarily, you can go through and make and tell the prompt, but make me sound like a high schooler.
You can.
In writing.
You
and
can.
Then it'll adjust to that.
You can.
So it'll use different words to explain things, because if you're going to do using all this jargon and stuff, of course you're not going to use that because you don't know it.
Right.
But there's ways that you can go around it, but no one's willing to just like figure out how do I craft my prompts or use the tools to make prompts, because there's also like tools like I have for ChatGPT. There is, I forget what it's called, but I'll put it on later or talk about it later. But there is a Chrome extension that you can put on there.
Oh, yes.
That gives you all these different. It helps you do like scripts and a ton of different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that the other day. But do you think that these types of algorithms are going to make us lazy?
I don't necessarily think it's going to make us lazy, but it's going to make us more efficient.
I get this, and maybe I've watched WALL-E too many times, but I get this fear for the human race that we're going to be like all those people on WALL-E.
It could get to that. It could eventually get to that.
You think it'll happen in our lifetime? Maybe not.
We're pretty close to it.
We're getting there.
We could do, I mean, it could be done. I mean, they're doing surgeries with AI now.
Yeah. So what do you think, we just have about 5 more minutes left, but what do you think the future looks like for the workforce if a lot of these jobs go to algorithms and robotic parts? What do we as people do?
We're going to have to learn how to fix those robotic parts because they're eventually going to break.
Yeah.
But then does it get to the point where AI can learn how to fix its own stuff? It can learn to fix its own code.
Can it already? Yeah.
Yeah. It's already there.
Well, because all it's doing basically all it's doing is reading all the information that we've already put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it can just compile the information faster than we can. I mean, it can just hold so much more than we can too, and it can access so much more and retain so much more than we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, without what we created initially, it wouldn't even have that availability to do that.
Right.
So, I mean, what are we all doing? What are the humans all doing? We're just hanging out. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice way to live. We just kind of hang out and we get a ration or talk about socialism. I don't even want to get into the, I'm not even going to get in the government ramifications of all of that. It'll be interesting. I think people will hold on, right? Don't you think? Especially the boomers. They're still kind of holding on. We'll still hold on, I think.
When all that happens, it's going to be like socialism. Is there going to have to be socialism?
There's going to have to be because nobody's going to be working except for the robots. What are we paying your robot? Like, no. What does your robot need money for?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. It'll be interesting. So I think that we've seen a lot in 50 and almost 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of changes. We've seen changes to vehicles, to music, to entertainment, to personal computing, to where we have our personal computers in our hands now with us at all times.
Yeah.
You know, access to things that took us hours and hours back in the day and now is like, you know, seconds. It's not even minutes, it's seconds.
Yeah.
You know. So I think it'll be interesting to see what that looks like over the next 50 years if we make it another 50, to see where all of this technology goes. And then, you know, aliens are here, so that'll be a whole nother thing that we throw in.
So imagine that technology.
Because Vincent's been watching a lot of Ancient Aliens lately, so yeah, it's a thing.
Imagine what happens then.
Imagine what happens then.
Yeah. So yeah, I like technology. I like adopting it and seeing where it goes and seeing what it does. But eventually, it's going to come to the point where we don't do anything. It seems, and people aren't going to have jobs anymore.
I mean, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, I think, you know, being an educator, there's something said about being, you know, person to person and having that person there to facilitate. But even I've learned recently how to use ChatGPT and stuff to help me write some of my lessons, right? Again, I have to know the background of the topic, of the subject, in order to write the prompt correctly so that the AI can generate out what I need so that my students are taught what they need.
Right.
So it's still going to take me some time.
Well, like the other day, I was like, I needed to send something to my attorney, but I don't know how to craft. I usually wait for Colleen. I was like, she's great at writing. I'll have her write it for me. And I was like, I can do this. Let me get on ChatGPT. Boom, wrote out the entire letter for me, the entire email to me, saying exactly what I needed to do.
Nice.
I only needed to change like 3 words.
Nice.
And then send it off. Took me maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I was looking for case studies for like leadership styles because I'm teaching my freshmen about leadership and leadership styles and stuff like that. And so I wanted them to have some like real world examples of these leadership styles. Sorry. So that they could then say, oh, well, this one is this kind of leadership and this one's this kind of leadership style. But I was like, it's going to take me forever to write those. Then it dawned on me, ChatGPT could write those for me.
Yeah.
And they wrote them pretty well. Am I going to tweak them a little bit and fancy them up and do something? Yeah, of course. But something that probably would have taken me 3 hours before is now only going to take me like an hour.
Yeah.
You know, so hey, with as limited time and as many things that I have to do on my
that's
plate.
what I've been saying. It's going to make us more efficient.
Which I think is great. So we just need to not be afraid of it. And, you know, I think every time something new like this comes out, there's always resistance.
Right now, what's happening right now is everybody is so overloaded with work because most of us are doing the work of like 3 or 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just going to level the playing field where it can make it to where we're doing it, the work of one person.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've just seen too many Terminator movies and iRobot and stuff like that. It is kind of scary, like Matrix, iRobot. Like we grew up in that era as well, with this fear of this. And it's funny because for Academic Decathlon this year, that's our whole premise is science fiction. Mm-hmm. And so I've been looking at all of these, and these stories have been around since the 1800s. This fear of like robots and automatons and AI and stuff. It's not new. Even way back then, they thought that machines were going to take over for us. They didn't have the vernacular that we have now, and they didn't have the understanding we have now. But it's been around since the late 1800s. So it's just interesting to see that we, as humans, have always had this fear. Maybe it's a legitimate fear that we should at least look at. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, because there are conversations going on now within the government and everything of how do we regulate this and what can we do with this and who can use it and how can we use it and things like that. So I guess we'll sit back and watch and see what the powers that be say. And while we're at it, let's all learn how to use it effectively for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. But we digress and
talk too long.
We talked too long.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking us out. I hope you enjoyed our little stroll down memory lane with technology. And I think technology is good. It can help us and make us more efficient and I think in the long run it's going to be great for us, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. But thanks for checking us out. I'm Vince.
And I'm Colleen. Geek Out Essay.